9 a.m. and we could feel the explosion in the roof. Holy cow. About a third of the building has been blown away.
She's got a seizure.
The first thing I did is looked up at the Murrah Building, and the daycare center, which was the second floor, was gone. It was blown out of the building.
We pulled 6 dead babies out, and a couple of dead women. It's just the most devastating. Everything fell on top of us. It's the most devastating thing I've ever seen in my life.
They were gone. I just knew that they were gone.
The Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, Oklahoma City, just moments after a bomb tore out its core, April the 19th, 1995. The target, a United States government office block. The victims, hundreds of innocent civilians and a children's daycare. 168 lives taken in an instant.
They had to know there was kids there. They had to know there was kids there. We laid them out on their playground because there wasn't any place else to put them.
He was blown from the second floor to the street. He had second and third degree burns over the 55% of upper portion of his body. His body was just shattered.
But who could devise such a horrific act of terror? The finger of blame would immediately point towards the usual suspects.
Some of the people made comments, you guys better not have done that. You guys better not have done that. You know, I said, you guys, I'm an Oklahoman, I'm an American.
Yet hate, homegrown in the heart of America, would drive a decorated war veteran and his accomplice to inflict pain never seen before within its own nation.
I would have killed him myself with my own bare hands.
For Timothy McVeigh, that is the fate he would face, death by lethal injection.
He was pronounced dead at 7:14 a.m. Central Daylight Time.
The victims of the Oklahoma City bombing have been given not vengeance, but justice. And one young man met the fate he chose for himself.
McVeigh's sentence complete, the legacy of hurt and suffering he caused has left scars that may never heal.
When your children die, you bury them in your heart, and it's forever. It never goes away.
Every day I would just call to make sure that they were all right, because some days Rebecca would cry when we'd leave her, and so I'd call immediate when I got to my desk and say, you know, they're fine, you know, and so about 9 o'clock every day I would call.
For Claudia and Jim Denny, the morning of April the 19th was routine. Together, they had placed their small toddlers, Brandon and Rebecca, in daycare. That daycare just happened to be in the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building.
We actually felt the explosion because my building, it swayed, and we heard it. My building is 3 blocks, about 3.5 blocks just south of the Murrah Building. And I said, what was that? I call up there and I just get a busy signal. I call him and said, a bomb went off at the Federal Building, get down there.
I'll never forget it because walking up 5th Street towards the Murrah Building, all that you heard was sirens, people talking, people moaning, helicopters, ambulances and fire trucks everywhere, unknowing what really happened. I looked up there, and looking all around the scene, there were people that were not good. I mean, there were people that weren't moving, people that you knew were gone. The rubble and the debris still in the air, and this is 15 minutes after it happened. The first thing I did is looked up at the Murrah Building, and the daycare center, which was the second floor, was gone. It was blown out of the building.
People were gathering everywhere, and everyone was asking about the children. And I knew it was a daycare in there.
One of those children was 1-year-old P.J. Allen. His grandmother, Dolores Watson, arrived at the scene immediately after the blast, desperate to find her young boy.
I would start asking people, I said, you know, where are the kids? Where are the kids? Because they told me that people were saying, they've gotten all the children out. They've gotten all the children out. And I'm looking at this building and I'm going, how could they have possibly gotten all the children out following this explosion? Because the building was gone.
The chances anyone had survived in the building's front facade were slim. The chance some of the children would be pulled out alive quickly appeared impossible.
You can sit in rooms and you can plan for things like this.
This explosion was at the Federal Building north of the...
But you never think this will happen. It's just a numbing experience, surreal.
Paramedic Mike McElroy and rescue teams did the best they could to help the injured. For others, there was simply nothing that could be done.
I remember the children that we couldn't do anything for. I think that was the worst part of it. All the training and all the equipment. The irony was the very playground that they played on every day, that they were kids. They had no cares. They loved each other and they played. The playground became the place where we put them when they died. They had to know there was kids there. They had to know there was kids there. And to put them on the playground where they played, and now they weren't playing anymore.
No panic set in. I think you realize that that your children might be gone, but you're going to take a step at a time.
Coming to terms with that reality, losing a child, is a burden no parent can face alone.
I met Claudia in the middle of the street, and she hadn't seen the bombed area yet. So the first thing I did is I grabbed her.
He said, look at me. He said, no matter what, we're in this together. When we went up Robinson, and that's when I turned around, when we got to 5th Street, and I turned around and I saw the devastation of the building. I mean, it was gone. I did not know. You know, they were gone. I just knew that they were gone.
Faced with such a tragedy, the people of Oklahoma displayed a strength of human spirit that would later become iconic.
It's like, well, I can't save your life, but I can spend a little time with you. The famous picture of Bailey Allman as she was taken out of the building, handed to the firefighter. What people never saw was the 2 medics that got her and did the best they could, and of course she didn't survive, and put her in the back of their ambulance and stayed with her for a while.
There have been extraordinary tales of courage and endurance. Doctors had to amputate one woman's leg without an anesthetic before she could be rescued.
Still, some clung to any instinct of hope.
It never occurred to me that my child was anything other than hurt. I love PJ. The thought of him being anything, I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel a loss.
For many families, it was simply a question of waiting.
We're in a room with a lot of the other parents of the children, looking at people with small children, and those people know they're dead.
Then, the miracle that the Dennys had been praying for.
They come on with a newscast that said, there's a fair-complected, blue-eyed, red-haired little girl, 2 to 3, at Southwest Medical Center. We don't know her name, and she's awaiting surgery.
That little red-haired girl, although badly injured, was Rebecca. Relieved to have at least one child alive, the Dennys would soon learn that Brandon had been taken to a nearby hospital.
That's Daddy and Mommy's big boy, huh?
The prognosis, though, from his treating doctor was not good.
I love you, honey.
He looked at me and he said, he's really in bad shape. If he did survive, he would never walk or talk again because the amount of brain tissue they removed from the left side of his body will affect his right side and his speech.
The Denny children may have survived the blast, but their battle was far from over. Brandon would need more than 2 months in intensive care, have a number of critical operations on his brain. One would be to remove a piece of debris surgeons found lodged within his skull.
Our children were so close to that bomb that Rebecca had blue plastic blown through her cheek into her mouth, and the FBI actually came by and got it, and it was plastic from the barrels the bomb was in. That's how close they were.
Another survivor, P.J. Allen, but so badly injured there would be only one person who could recognize him.
I could see his little stomach, little navel, and I said, "That's him. That is him. That is my child." And the woman said, she said, "How do you know? You haven't seen his face." I said, "Ma'am, I know every inch of that child. I mean, you could have shown me his toe." I said, "I bathe that baby twice a day and change all his diapers. I know exactly what my baby looks like."
But covering him were 2nd and 3rd degree burns to more than 55% of his body.
He was blown from the 2nd floor to the street. His body was just shattered.
For the miracle kids pulled from the rubble, it would be a slow and painful road to recovery. But for others in the building, fate would deal a cruel hand.
When I saw that rubble, I immediately just kind of gave up all hope that the only hope that I had is that she wasn't in the building.
But Julie Welsh was in the building. Her father, Bud, would later learn the agonizing circumstances in which his daughter lost her life. Called away from her desk, she would be directly in the path of the explosion when it ripped through the foyer.
As it turned out, had she been back at her office, she would have been okay, because there was no one killed in her immediate work area. And I was told by rescue workers if she'd had about 3 more seconds, she'd have been deep enough into the building that they would have been okay. When I learned that fate, I anguished for months about that, as to why she didn't have more time. But I struggled really hard with my revenge, my hate.
Devastated by his loss, and like so many others, it would be years before he could come to terms with his anger.
Revenge and hate was the very reason that Julie and 167 others are dead in this great city today.